Soups is stuck in a solar prison. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys, DC Multiverse, Dark Knight's Death Metal, Superman. Following the universe-shattering events of Dark Knight's Metal, the Earth is enveloped by the Dark Multiverse and is transformed into a hellish landscape twisted beyond recognition. Now Superman has been separated from Batman, Wonder Woman, and the other DC superheroes and is being held captive in a solar prison on New Apokolips. He must fight to survive so that he can reunite with his fellow heroes and save the DC Multiverse. Before we get things underway, for Superman, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the figure stands. In order to do this, what I'm going to do is take the tape measure right to the very top of his head, and I'm going to stop it right there. If I am correctly reading this, then Superman from Dark Knight's Death Metal stands 7.3 inches in height. I'd switch that over to centimeters, revealing that the figure is 18.5 or 18.5 centimeters tall. Well, we've made it to the halfway point, so let's bring in the other figures that we've looked at so far. Rather impressive Robin King and a somewhat disappointing Dark Knight's Death Metal Batman. Not disappointing in the sense that it was a lousy-looking figure. Let's just get his feet to straighten out here. More so, again, just the fact that we already got this Batman. Do we need him again? Apparently we do. Also, some size comparisons, seeing as we're talking about Superman here. Let's bring in some of the other Superman we just recently had a look at. There's Superman, very angry-looking Superman with big jowls. And he's not quite Superman, but we can bring in his clone. That's what he looks like next to the Bizarro also as well from McFarlane Toys. Got some stuff to cover. Let's start covering that now. Starting first, he comes included with the same black display stand with the same DC logo and the same peg at the top corner there. Again, like the fact that we do include stands with these figures. I say it like I'm part of this team. I'm really not. I'm just the guy that talks behind the camera, talking about what the things I like and what things I don't like about the figure. One of the things I would check on the list of things I like, at least, is that they include display stands. Moving that to the side. Somewhat lukewarm of my feelings towards this. We've got the Superman Dark Knight's Death Metal trading card. I don't know. My interest is fleeting, I would say, just because they continue to use action figure photography. It's fine and good, and I'm happy to see that they're impressed with the work that they've done, but again, I really like the source material being represented here on the front of the card. I mean, really, would you want to collect trading cards of figures, action figures? Like if somebody just took a picture of Batman, the action figure, and made it into a trading card. I don't know. It's not as interesting to me. But at least on the back, you have your stats. Real name is Kal-El, Clark Kent, adoptive name. Height is 6'3", and his weight is 235 pounds. You can either freeze the camera, pause the camera, I think is what they say in the technical field, or you can also just listen to the beginning of this review where I read that all off at the beginning of the intro. I'm going to put that to the side. Superman also comes included with, of course, the arms for Darkfather. So we can, I guess, bring in Darkfather from where we've left off. Lower legs and a torso, that's about all. He's not really going to be much of a threat at all, but you can at least see how he's going to be a lot taller than the other DC Multiverse figures. We can then go ahead and grab these arms right here, and you can see just a regular gray plastic that they've used and spiked gauntlets there on the lower ends of his forearms. I mean, they look nice, you know. A little bit of color, a little bit of paint. Certainly also could have gone a long way, but, you know, it's a nice sculpt at least. We're going to go ahead, making sure, of course, I got it on the right side. Thumbsies go in, that's the rule of thumb. Oh, it literally is the rule of thumb. We're going to go ahead and pop the first one in. I'm probably going to need to heat this up, I think, first. Doesn't help either the fact, okay, I've got the little plug, as you can see, is facing the wrong direction. I really suspect I'm going to probably have to heat this up. Get that popped in. You know what? Leave it with me. So we have arms that still have to be popped in place. And then, of course, we need the head and we need the cape that's going to go onto the back. That's going to come packed with Wonder Woman. But as I've said already, we're about halfway. Well, we are halfway. Let's move that to the side. We'll tackle that on later. Okay, so let's have a look at the accessories that come included with Superman. It's basically just the swappable versions of the hands. So if you already like the hands on this side, you can see he's got fists on both sides, and you probably won't even use these. If you want instead to have him with mauling hands with the rather weird-looking disfigured finger, then yes, you can just pop these out instead. One thing I do want to comment, it's not a compliment, but one thing I want to comment on this is there's a different peg system for the side that's got the stone arm. You can see right here, well actually in fact, you know, I'll bring the other two back in so you can see. This is just a regular peg system, we all know this by now, but you can see they've gone a different route with this hand. It's one of my problems with this figure. Let me just show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to go ahead and pick Superman up here. This hand is fine and good, right? You know, it's just a regular peg. Used to it by now. This is what we've used to seeing. But then if you look at it on the other hand, literally on the other hand, what they've done is instead of using a peg system, they've used a hinge joint similar to what you would see with an elbow. The problem with it, though, is as you're bringing the hand back, it leaves this just awkward-looking hinge joint that's sticking up from his hand. I don't understand why they couldn't have just used the peg system. I mean, if they had just gone the same route as this, yes, unfortunately, I get probably why they did it, because they wanted to keep the width of the forearm, because it's a broader forearm than on this side here, even though this one's technically wrapped all up. I guess they wanted to keep it more consistent, because if you see it from this side, I mean, it looks like more of a continuation of the forearm. But again, as you bring the hand inward, it's not so bad on this side, but if you have it on certain, even if you have it like this, you can see there's a little bit more. It's definitely a lot worse, though, on the inside. That's a bit on the ugly side, if you ask me. But again, if you want to change the hands out, we're going to start with this side anyways. It will be a lot easier to remove, simply just because it's a larger peg system. And then you can replace it with this hand. It's kind of weird seeing it like this. We're so not used to seeing a forearm peg opening like this. It literally is just it's just a chasm. It's like the inside of that doomsday device from the classic Star Trek series. Don't fly a starship into there, whatever you do. Go ahead and just pop this back into place. Why did I reference Star Trek there? Just pop that in. There we go. And you have this as a mauling hand instead. The one thing, unfortunately, you do lose is that you'll see on the hand, and actually both the cases, it's got these interesting Superman brass knuckles, which I think works a little bit better if you have it as a closed fist than an open hand. I only just popped this off just to show you what it looks like, but I think for displaying purposes, I probably would just go reverting back to the fist, because it makes a lot more sense. If he's going to be having, of course, brass knuckles, at least on one side, why wouldn't you be making a fist with that hand? I know, I was thinking the same thing. I'll leave it in there for the time being, and I'm sure I'm probably going to change it back before we get to the end of this video. Anyways, getting a closer look at his head sculpt. It's a slightly underwhelming head portrait, if you ask me. There's things certainly I like about it. It's a clean-looking, finished face. The bold black outlining that they've used, of course, for his eyebrows, these giant caterpillars above his eyes, look quite nice. I also like the fact that they used almost what seems like a metallic red, and then they've outlined that in black. Also like the fact that they panel-lined a dividing area between the top and bottom lip. I guess it looks okay from certain angles. Maybe I would have probably sculpted a more angrier look on his face, because it seems like he's so... It kind of seems like a kid who was really skinny in high school and started working out, but he still sort of has a child face, and he just has a really super muscular body. How's that for an analogy? I mean, it's like I said, it's an okay head sculpt. I really think they probably could have just jazzed this up a little bit by adding more of an expression to his face, giving her an angry... I mean, we got teased. Well, we didn't even get teased. I'm going to bring him in. You already know my feelings when it comes to Robin King. I mean, look at the expression on his face. That says, hey, I want to buy you. When you look at Superman, unfortunately, he just so has such a neutral-looking face sculpt. Again, it looks like he's got a man-child face and then a very muscular body. I just dropped the Superman here on the side. Yeah, I probably would have done a little bit something different. I think just jazzed up that expression a little bit more so it wasn't so bland and neutral like this. I like the head sculpt. The hair, at least, on the head sculpt is pretty good. Probably could have been a little bit longer, but at least having it this length, it means that you can rotate the head fine and good, which we'll talk more about in the articulation end of this review. Of course, for the rest of his outfit, something's actually rather interesting about the emblem, though. It has the same... Here, I keep reaching off to the far side here and bringing in other figures, but I wanted to bring in the Bizarro. It seems like they've used the same upper torso. Doesn't it seem to be the case? I mean, short of the fact that this Superman, the imprisoned Superman, has more of the ripped sleeves on the sides, it does seem like they've used the same torso, except for the fact that they painted the emblem the opposite way. They would have had to retool it because the S is raised from the rest of the triangle around it. Same as with the Bizarro. They had to sculpt that in. So at least they didn't just phone it in and paint the S a different direction, but it does seem like they are using the same body torso piece. And again, I don't know, I'll fall for the idea if they want to reuse the body parts, if it means that we're getting brand new figures. But yeah, as soon as I saw the little dripping end of his emblem, I knew I saw it from somewhere. Sure enough, it actually came from the Bizarro. As for his arms, of course, we've already discussed the fact he does have the ripped sleeve on the one side. He does have some Ultimate Warrior tassels on the one side, painted there nicely in the red. I'm a little worried about the way that this was plugged in. It has not fallen out yet. I don't know why. Probably I'm chancing that by yanking away at it, but it's a softer plastic. A little bit further down, you've got the wrapped off forearm area that leads then into the hands. Again, going to the more conventional route of using the peg joint. Really wish they could have done it on that side as well. Then, of course, we look on this side of Superman's arms, a little bit more different. Definitely not only different color, but a lot more sculpting gets brought in here as well. I like the stone look to it. It does have some really nice detailing done to it. I probably would have maybe still gone in there with a dark wash of black paint and just really washed over a lot of these features, because I feel like the arm is it's just a lot of gray. And a little bit of black, a little bit of love, a little bit of je ne sais quoi, I think probably could have, un parler français, just un petit peu. Adding just a little bit of black wash, I think probably could have just accented some of those details. Unfortunately, as some of these figures are really good head sculpts, really good body sculpts, sometimes they lose a little something. They leave a little off the table because then, unfortunately, they don't put the wash over top of it. And as you can see there on the back, there's chains, and more chains. Almost looks like I'm looking at Luke Cage from the back here, spinning around to the front. Or certainly something you'd see from Spawn. This is all soft plastic. They're just using all just linked mold. It's not even like these links are connected where you can independently move the chain, but that's fine. That's okay. These are just, again, soft plastic. Sculpting on the legs is pretty good, and we get a little bit further down. You've got, again, those taped off, wrapped off boots. Yeah, you know, I hate to keep continuing to draw from the same well on this, but maybe a little bit of black wash probably could have brought a little bit of something there. Or maybe just change the color a little bit in the red. Like even the buckles, for example, on the side are literally just the same color as the rest of the plastic. As good as these sculpts are, and I hate to again sound like a broken record, really where they lack in any department is really the paint department. Because again, those look good, but just like think of how much better they could look if they added just a little bit of extra paint on it. And of course the undersides of Superman's footwear. I like the little spikes that he's got on the ends of his shoes. Those are a nice touch. I mean, he's a good-looking Superman in most of the departments. The head department is about the only thing I probably would have just changed. I mean, there's something to work with here, but I think I would have just incorporated a more angry-looking expression on his face. So let's have a look at the posability on Man, Boy, Child Superman for his head. Man, Boy, Child, that's ridiculous. His head rotates all the way around. It hinges down. It hinges up. Not too much, though. And you can also rock it back and forth as well. As for his arms, both the arms seem to have ratcheted joints on it. And I found this arm was really tight getting it out of the packaging. It has loosened up a little bit, probably just, again, a little bit more TLC. I think I could probably loosen those up just a little bit more than what they are. For the arms, you can see there's the way that the track system works for the hinge. When you bring it down, you're not going to get completely parallel flush to the torso. They're automatically going to stick out to the side a little bit. It's unavoidable. There's just no way around it. The arms, I just lost the hand. The hand just popped off. You know what? Let's go back to the fist. I knew I was going to do it. You see? I almost had this premonition that I was going to be changing the fist somewhere down the point in the review. And of course, the hand popped off. Anyways, the arms rotate all the way around. You can swivel at the bicep. You can single hinge on the elbow. This joint does work well for the elbows. I will commend them for that. The same hinge joint, though, doesn't seem to work as well for the hands, because as you've already seen, hinging the hand back and forth, you see this big, really obnoxious-looking corner piece that sticks out, unfortunately, on the hand. Again, I don't understand why they just couldn't have used the same peg system as the other side. Anyways, upper torso is on a ball joint. Lower torso is also on a ball joint. As for the legs split out, and because this is a softer plastic that they've used for the chains, as I flop these back and forth, it means that when moving the legs out, the chains stay good out of the way. You can move also legs back and forth this way, swivel at the top of the thigh, double hinge on Superman's knees. Then for his lower feet, this is basically some sad news to report. It doesn't seem like there's any articulation at all. Now that's fine, because some of you may not even want the articulation down here. At least, again, it's sculpted, decently sculpted footwear. As for the feet, you can move them back and forth. You can ankle pivot them just a little bit. And he also has toe articulation. Just watch out for those spikes. I've pricked myself a couple of times already. It's a good Superman, at least from a design standpoint. There's things, of course, I would have probably changed differently. I mean, again, just take my own personal opinions with a grain of salt. Everybody's going to have their own personal opinions. That's the whole thing of having opinions. My own personal opinion, the coloring is good on it, yes. Sculpt is good on the body, yes. The only thing it really lacks a little bit is paint. Some paint application probably applied to like the boot area, any basically area that's wrapped in the red. Probably could have afforded a little bit of additional black wash to it. Same also could be said for the arm. I'm not super crazy on the head sculpt. An angrier expression probably would have gone a bit of a longer way for me. And I really don't like the peg system that they use for this hand here. It works okay here, and it's what we've normally gotten with DC Multiverse figures, and yet they've changed it too much, I feel, on this side. Moving on the outside is not so bad. Moving on the inside, it gets pretty ugly real fast. Bit of a different look this time around for the Man of Steel. For starters, he's gone away with the idea of wearing a cape, because I guess cape is so passé. Everybody just wants now ripped sleeve Superman shirts and chain belts. I know we keep calling this Dark Knight's Death Metal Superman, but if you had a big giant marker, I would have just crossed out that and wrote 90s Superman. Doesn't this just personify everything you would sort of tie in with the 90s? Short of maybe him blasting Master of Puppets in his new Apocalypse prison, I don't think anything else would have made this guy more 90s. And that's not necessarily a bad thing at all. I think there's good things. There's positive points that I could certainly talk about this figure. I think there's a lot of good sculpt working here. Some of my favorite things are the wrapped areas around his one arm and then the areas of his boots. In both cases, I feel paint once again gets neglected here. This is kind of an ongoing issue I have with the DC Multiverse line. Some really good sculpted figures, but sort of under-delivering because there's just not nearly enough of additional washing that they have to add to the surface of the plastic. Again, like the sculpting on the boots is fantastic, just needs a little bit of dark wash just to bring those details out. The rest of his body is pretty good. The face is sort of questionable. In fact, actually, if everybody just stops for a second, puts down the snack that they were eating, just kind of look to the back image that they've used. Yeah, it's figure photography. I don't know why they're using figure photography for their trading cards, but I digress. If you look at the image on the back of the packaging, doesn't it kind of look like Superman's got a more chiseled head sculpt? Something that would even make Fabio impressive and jealous. And you can also see, I don't know if it's just me, doesn't it also seem like Superman's got longer hair in the image that they've used on the back? It could also just be the way that I've turned the head slightly to the side, but I swear to you, the hair's longer on the figure that they've used on the back of the package artwork, though. As for, like I said, the rest of the figure, short of the little baby face thing he's kind of got going on with the head sculpt, I probably would have made his face, well, a lot more chiseled like you see in the back of the packaging, or at least show a little bit of teeth. I was so spoiled by Robin King, and now to follow up that review with the Dark Knight's Death Metal Superman, I feel like the head sculpt could have been a little bit better. Not to mention as well, it's that peg problem that they've got in the one wrist. I say one wrist because, of course, the other hand is fine. It's just using the regular peg system. But that one gray arm that carries then into the gray wrist, why did they have to use that peg? Oh, I get it. Okay, let me answer that own question. They did it so it looked seamless to the rest of his forearm. And I get that. But the inside, of course, when you start bending that hand back and forth, you're going to have this big protrusion sticking out from Superman's palm. And that's got to be painful, especially if he's in a solar prison. What do you guys think of this figure? Let me know down below in the comments section whether you picked up Dark Knight's Death Metal Superman for yourself or based on this review and this review alone. Of course, like I said, we've gone halfway through. The only figure now left to still look at is Wonder Woman, which I already think is going to be my favorite figure from this wave, or kind of maybe tied, I think, with that and Robin King. Those are probably going to be my two favorite figures. But certainly to see what my feelings are on that Wonder Woman, you'll have to certainly stay tuned to this channel. Keep your peepers peeled. And of course, most definitely, if you are new here, hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the bell notification, do all those necessary things that we always ask you guys to do. It's just our way to make sure that you guys are able to see all the content that's popping up. And being, of course, more importantly to this channel, there's always new content popping up. So make sure you're hitting that bell notification to get those friendly notifications. We are going to be looking at Wonder Woman. somewhere in between of all that, I'm also going to be having to heat up the hands and the arms, I think, of Darkfather, so I could probably get those into the torso, because right now I'm having no luck whatsoever. But we're going to finish up Wonder Woman. We're going to finish up the Darkfather wave with, of course, the crowning jewel, the collect, build a figure of Darkfather. I'm looking forward to seeing that completed and all intact. There's definitely a lot of stuff coming your way, guys. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.